Welcome to the Effilix podcast on AI in project management and transformation. Here, we're all about exploring how AI is reshaping project management, bringing new tools, trends, and insights that are driving real transformation.
Joining us today is Mehmet, a powerhouse in product management and Agile coaching. With a razor-sharp strategic mind and a track record of driving high-impact transformations, Mehmet has helped countless teams unlock their full potential. He's not just a product expert, he's a master at bridging the gap between strategy and execution.
Let's go ahead and get a quick introduction and get to know about our guest. Mehmet, over to you. Why don't you let the listeners know a little bit about yourself? That would be really great.
Of course. Hey, thanks for having me. First was, I'm excited to be here, and let's indeed chat today about all of those alignment challenges, indeed, because we have a few, and maybe even a little bit of all the other things that we have as a product management sector also face, like the juicy topics, not only with alignment, but maybe a little bit of AI too. I'm ready to dive in if you are.
That's amazing. So let's start up. In the first segment, let's see what's the alignment challenges in Agile product development. In this, let's go ahead and talk about some of the biggest, on the overview, some of the biggest challenges the product managers face with their team in terms of alignment. How does the
Okay.
alignment tend to go sideways in Agile teams?
What I mostly see is, I think with sidelines, more of like this cross-functional teams that is becoming more and more popular. Also with DevOps becoming more and more popular. You build it, you own it, you run it. And that means you have all these facets within a team having all different kind of priorities and also all different kind of like visions in how things should work and operate together. Managing those expectations and aligning those expectations can be sometimes a hurdle.
Yeah, true. So, do you want to help us understand a little bit of real examples that has been a bigger problem and you have seen common in many organizations that you've coached and been part as a product managers, because you've been in both these roles
Yes.
and you know the intricacies and expectations from each of the role, and you also know the teams and level of connection that you have with the teams. So do you want to highlight more on that as well?
Definitely. I have some real, of course, examples. And what, for example, you often see is stakeholder expectations, but also not only stakeholder expectations, who is the stakeholder? And managing those expectations and knowing your stakeholders, that's a very much important thing. But it is not only your users. For example, if you are a product owner, product manager, and you need to collaborate with your peers and with your customers, and sometimes you get a question like, I want to add XYZ within an application as features.
Mhm.
But do you then only listen to those what is being told to you? Or are you always trying to get the question behind it? Because before I just drop a feature wish towards team or towards within an organization to say like, yes, I will do it. No, you will always need to take like, which problem am I giving a solution to? What am I answering? And then if you have that communication aspect very much clear, because that's the biggest problem, is understanding each other. So asking questions, what do you want? Why do you want it? What is it going to resolve? For example, with AI, you also see it these last days that organizations just pop up. We want to utilize AI. Okay. I installed ChatGPT on my computer. Are we done? Those kind of things, like what is the expectations? Just saying things is quite problems. And what you then see within teams is if the higher management or the customer is not very clear about those things, or even within product management is not clear about those things, you have all of these experts, designers, developers within the team not actually knowing what to solve, because they need to do the how, of course.
Yeah, that's very much true, very much true. And how do you tend to solve this silos on which the different teams are in? Because different teams are working like in silos,
Yes,
but the organization wants everybody to go agile. How do you
that
deal with such a situation?
trying to create empathy across those silos, because people are afraid of the unknown, or they are used to like, hey, I created my package and then I throw it over the fence. So what I mostly do is, in those kind of the situations, is whenever I talk with the stakeholders, I ask one of the team members always to join with me. Not as much as like to really help me, but like, hey, are you not interested in what they sell? Just to listen. And if you hear something interesting, you can even ask things yourself as well. So I always take one or two team members with me, as much as I can when I talk with the stakeholders, just to showcase them like what the stakeholder is going through. But whenever the stakeholder gets to know the developer or the designer within the team, and they explain how they can possibly fix it, also the stakeholder will get more empathy towards them. Oh, that small feature wish that I had is apparently a lot of work for them. By not only stating the obvious, but actually showing the person that actually needs to execute it. And by having that empathy, people are more open to like listen also to each other. And that's the biggest part. I said communication, and listening is also a part of that communication.
Got it, got it. So, how do you influence their mindset? Because teams, especially the dev team or the technical team, has this perception about agile, right? Putting them
Yeah.
all on the track. How do you convert their
Um,
mindset?
that's a very difficult part. It depends also of the maturity of the organization and also of the team itself. If it's a more junior team, you try to get the framework as true to its source, trying to implement it. So, what are the agile events, the reviews, the sprint retrospectives, trying to be very truthful to those events. The more mature the team is, you can, of course, check also what is more favorable for that team's own way of working. How I, for example, do with Agile is, as a product manager, like I'm not the scrum master of the team, of course, but as a product manager or as a product owner, what I'm trying to always assess is that it is safe to make faults, mistakes, missteps. The most important thing is that even if we make those mistakes or maybe wrong decisions, because it's actually just decisions, uh, it is that we learn from it, that we iterate on it. And that's actually the essence of Agile, isn't it? Like that you iterate
Yes,
on your
yes.
decisions and make it better, instead of making one complete solution and then having like the decision. Yeah, this product was eventually not what we wanted, but that is waterfall. We are not doing waterfall anymore. At least people say that they are not doing it always, but sometimes they still do.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
actually, if it's to summarize, junior teams very strict on like the sprint events, so that people learn like actually like how Scrum works or how Agile works, and how mature there they go. You can go a little bit outside, but the core principles are safe space, making room for like missteps, but owning it, being transparent about your progress, and explain why you take certain decisions. As long as it is like visible and reasonable, but it depends also on the organization. But that mindset change, sometimes you're not liked, but hey, being a product owner or product manager is not always being to be liked in the beginning, but most of the time they will eventually see the light too.
True, true, very true. That is totally true. And with that said, let's move to the segment to what happens when alignment goes wrong. When alignment goes off, things can get pretty messy. It's not just a small hiccup, it can totally derail a project. So, when it comes to such a situation, irrespective of communicating, yet when things goes wrong and misaligned, how do you go about and handle such a situation? How do you put your team back into the track?
That's I, of course those things also happen sometimes, and yeah, that think about like maybe also even a good uh, again I said about like being honest. Being honest is also if you're like in a position like okay, it didn't went how we have foreseen things, or it is not as what is being expected. Be honest about it. If you showcase like okay, this has happened, we took a decision based on these knowledge, now we see it didn't work out, and reassess. If you are panicking, if you are being aggressive, if you are being like finger pointing towards each other, it's not helping anyone. Not the organization, not your stakeholders, not the team, not the self confidence of the team. And by being, uh, it is what it is kind of mentality. Okay, it happened. And how are we going to make it better? How are we going to learn from it? How are we going to try, and emphasis on try, to avoid doing this mistake again or this kind of mistakes again? That's the whole retrospectives also is about. But if it's really derailed and you have like big problem, also a role of one of the product manager is like owning it. It's our component. You own it. And if you own it, that sometimes it's not taking the feathers and not taking the compliment. Sometimes taking all the anger of your stakeholders also upon yourself and protect the team from it
Yeah,
because it's nobody's fault.
that's true. That's true. So, how do you deal with situations wherein teams don't communicate enough?
It is always together. Like, I cannot. I always believe like when you work like in an organization, you work with grown-ups and you work with professionals. And yeah, at least that's the assumption. Normally, I always say, don't assume, don't make an ass out of you or me. But it is, it's a people instinct. Sometimes you just assume. Like when I work somewhere, I'm assuming that the people that I work with, they are experts in what they do. They are they should be communicative. That is something that I not always immediately assume. But if I see there is not a good communication side, I address it. I suggest proposals like, guys, if you see an email, someone needs to pick it up. Do you guys want me to pick it up? Do you guys want to pick it up yourself? But we need to make agreements on it. We cannot have like, for example, a client says, hey, I have an issue. And even though we as a team are fixing that issue, but if you are not communicating that you are fixing that issue, it's still not good. So I address that. But sometimes you see it also other way around, like communication. It's a two-way road. A client asks for something because they have an issue. It is resolved. And they don't come back like, hey, thank you, it's resolved. And I always also ask like, hey, if it is resolved and you have tested it and you continue to work further, address it also like, hey, it works. Thank you. Because it is not a you ask, we run mentality here. We are co-workers and we need to do it together. And communication is also together. So I address it. That's my most straightforward.
Got it, got it. So, do you generally find yourself doing this alignment process Or
In the
even
beginning
assist the
of the
process
project,
manually?
mostly. Okay. It depends on the person. Normally, I have always these templates like of my stakeholders. Like some persons like to be like immediately phone calls. Some have it rather on the chat. Some have rather on the email. It depends on how intensive that would be go. With theme, I normally want to do it face to face, or if that is not possible due to abroadness that they are working abroad. I try to do it like at least behind the camera that people can see it, because I think it's very important to at least address it within the team physically as it can.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would, and after those addressments, putting it on paper, of course, like in a Confluence or whatever product you have within your organization to manage those documents and the way of work. And communication document you also.
Got it. So that brings us to the segment 3. Could AI be the secret sauce to fixing alignment? Here's where it gets fun. We all know Agile's about continuous improvement, but what if we could use something smarter like AI to help teams stay aligned in real time? Mehmet, do you think AI could solve some of the alignment headaches we are talking about?
In Agile, I definitely think it would help. And people are always like, huh? Uh, AI, it's scary, we don't know what it is. But it can really help things like to track the progress, keeping everyone on the same page, keeping the same vocabulary. For example, if we say A, it means A. And AI can be very consistent in that. For example, within documentation creation, it will always use the same terminology in all the pages and not use 5 different terminologies for the same thing. Uh, that would be really awesome, for example. So I'm all in for that one.
Got it, got it. So quick check here, which is, do you do health checkup for your teams or your project? If, as in health checkup, as in everybody is aligned in terms of what we want to achieve, and if you do, how do you think AI might come in there?
Not, it is. I see it as a tool. AI is a tool. Sometimes you hear these conversations on all of these platforms, like, "Are we going to be replaced, or is AI taking our jobs?" No, it is literally like it's a tool. And what AI, in for my personal sense, means very a lot is processing information, but helping also with creative ideas, because it's the first hurdle. That's most of the time the problem, something for a product owner or product manager or for an organization as a whole. So like, I want something, but I don't know exactly what. And by just actually spewing like information towards this agile tool or AI tool, what you then create is actually getting a lot of feedback, like a lot of information. So instead of reading like 20 books, I'm getting the worth of 20 books specified on that exact thing that I'm actually interested in. So processing information is going much faster, coming up with new ideas is faster. It's actually your personal sparring partner.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
I agree, I agree.
so I really like in that essence, it can help in very much aspects, even in the personal
True.
space.
Mm-hmm. 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 That is totally true. In fact, I could see how it can analyze sprint progress and flag someone's not tracking the right things or not. In fact, it could put teams back into the business goals, because most of the time teams do not clearly picturize what the business goals are and the importance of
Definitely,
having something. Yeah.
definitely. For example, if the business goals, the example that you just said, and then you're like, so, I see that my team has very much issues with like getting the business goals in front of, like me just thinking it. But if I would write this question, like, I have a team that struggles with the business goals within this sprint, by just asking it, even you don't need to be even very specific about it. by just asking it, you will get kind of like maybe 20 suggestions of AI, how you can possibly address it. And then if you see an answer within those possible reactions, like, hey, that sounds interesting, and then you can elaborate on that one. It is still your choice. It is still your decision, but it helps you on the way.
That's true. That's true. I also think like AI could even predict when alignment issues are coming up, even when the team is just working on the tasks and they might not be knowing whether they're going on track or off track. But AI could help toward the process. What do you think about that?
That is and there that is a very a good point that you make there, because I do think that would be a very enhanced feature of AI, because spotting the patterns. Because what does our brain do? We process information and we try to see the red line in it. And AI does it, but much faster and much more oriented, because it has just that one goal. We have, like in our brains, a lot of things that goes on there. So we cannot only think about business goals there. But for example, if the team has their agenda in their AI, or they write it in the AI, but they have still 3 features to go, and AI knows like, hey, this team with this capacity, with this date in month, and we know that the Christmas time is coming up, and in December more people are like more likely to take leave. I don't think this feature will be off in this 40 hours, because effectively they have 20 hours left of work. We maybe don't think about that immediately, but AI maybe can spot it the moment you even write it.
Yeah, that's actually a fascinating way of to put that. It would actually help teams in various ways, in more ways that it will keep them also satisfied in their roles, is what I think.
But it can also alert them. It doesn't need to decide on it. It's like, hey, I noticed this. This happened also last year. Are you guys gonna work through Christmas? And then the team will say, no. Are we then getting this feature then done? No.
Mm-hmm.
So we shouldn't commit to this one, this sprint. Those
That's
are
true.
things.
That's true.
So how much more data you actually give AI, how better AI would also be able to predict and help and support the team.
Yeah, true, true, very true. And how do you think AI will come into picture of privacy requirements of clients?
That is a very important thing, and an actual thing that a lot of organizations deal with, is that question. Where is the data being utilized and processed? That's a collaboration with the tool that the organization take into their environment. And some of them are more lenient, some of them less. It is just important of like, if you want to be a very secure, very controlled like environment, you can make agreements with those tooling agencies and saying like, hey, I want my data to be stored, for example, in Europe, because I need to be according to the law, I need to adhere to these things. And then you can address it. And most of the times you can also address on like, okay, but what kind of data? You can always start small. I said, like, I also already said, like, how much more data you give, how much more effectiveness you can get out from AI. But you don't need to immediately go into a high-end prediction situation. You can also start with, I want to have an AI that can help me with templates in basic product management templates, like how do you create a roadmap? Give me 10 kind of templates. You can start there. And if they see the benefits of it, people get enthusiastic about it, they will get used to it. And if people then understand what AI is, they will also feel more comfortable with it. The unknown is always the scary part. It's more scariness than really objection to it. Because everybody wants it, actually. everybody wants to do something with AI.
That's totally true, very valid. And we always ask our guests this question, which is what are your 5 hacks or tips which you would suggest other product managers and agile coaches to do in order to keep the teams aligned?
Um, First of all, is identifying those stakeholders, and but not only on what is written on paper, but also looking, and that is actually the expertise what we should also be more keen to, is sometimes not the person that is responsible for a decision, but sometimes there are people within teams or products teams uh, that are more capable of taking that decision, and the shadow owners, I always call them, and
Mhm.
try to also introduce them to your communication way of thinking, to your vision. And it's reiterate always repeat your message, and always stand also open to suggestions. For example, if people see that you listen to feedback, last time I, for example, thought that I would have a great idea, I was very enthusiastic about it, and I told a fellow colleague about it, and he said, "What a terrible idea." I was flabbergasted. I was like, "What?" And then I asked him, "But why?" And you should not be like immediately like personally feel attacked by it, but just ask, "Why do you say that?" And then he told me like a couple of things, and then I was listening. Again, communication and with listening. I was listening to what he was saying, and I was like, "Yeah, I think you're right." It's not always the case that someone on the other end that you agree with them, but it doesn't matter. You listen, you honestly listen, and if you listen to those people, and if they see that you listen to them, you create also to one of the things that I already mentioned, empathy. And if people have empathy or within their alignment of communication, people want to also work with you. People want to succeed together with you. They shouldn't own the success only. The organization should have the success together with the collaboration of all the people that worked on the project. But you need to show them that it is ours, not only from one person, and that helps. Being a gentle person, being a nice person, kind person, but being decisive and sometimes assertive. Uh, Maybe that's synonyms from each other. I don't know, but hey, English is not my first language. Sorry.
Got it, got it, got it. That's actually great. And what do you propose agile coaches to do in terms of putting the teams back into alignment?
Uh, Giving tools and tips and tricks like handles, like how they can come up to a situation where they would actually address those things. And like I said, communicating, listening, creating empathy. You can, for example, I saw yesterday. I saw a nice presentation about someone, uh, and they, for example, do a gamification of it. So if an agile coach, for example, gamifies a kind of a project, what you, by the way, we were talking about AI, and you can even ask AI, can you gamify this process for me? It can actually help agile coaches to come up with like gamification, and so that people, by gaming, by playing a game, actually learn new things. For example, how they should communicate.
Hmm, that's actually fascinating. It's a wonderful idea. So that's a wrap. I think
Yeah,
the episode has captured most of everything that we wanted to discuss and let the audience know. And everybody that's listening out there, feel free to drop in the comments and we will get Mehmet answer most of your questions. We will reply to those comments. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining, Mehmet. It's been great
the-
talking to you. This episode has been a wealth of knowledge. I'm pretty sure all the product managers and agile coaches who have been
Yeah,
facing this long, long issue of alignment will actually find some tips and tricks and to work on and get things done in a successful manner. Thank you so much for joining us, Mehmet. Do you have anything to say
I'm also very
before we
honored
end the
to have.
podcast?
I'm also very honored to be on this podcast. And yeah, like I said, communicate, listen, and create empathy and be a nice person. That's the most what I want to say. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Thanks again to Mehmet for joining us and for all the insights. Alignment in Agile isn't easy, but with some smart strategies and maybe a little help from AI, it doesn't have to be a headache. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked today's episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share it with your team.